All right. So my name's Sam, and I guess you're thinking, oh no, he's short, he's Asian. I bet he's an accountant. But no, that's where you're wrong. I'm a doctor, so don't force your Asian stereotypes on me. So even though I'm employed by City Bible Forum, I part-time as a medical doctor. It's probably one of my main streams of income. And if you haven't met me before, you're probably wondering what sort of doctor. I'm a surgical assistant. So I work with orthopedic surgeons while they operate on it. If you before, I explain it the best way in this way. After an operation, you get 3 bills from the doctors. First bill is from the surgeon. You think, fair enough, they did the operating. Second bill is from the anaesthetist. Fair enough, they kept me alive. Who's this bozo sending me a third bill? That is me, the surgical assistant. My most important job is, as they put you to sleep, I have to say, hi, my name is Sam. I'm the surgical assistant. You'll be getting a bill from me in 2 weeks' time. And that's the last thing you hear as you drift off to sleep. Just like a mechanic needs someone to hold the bonnet of the car while they work on your car, a surgeon needs me to hold the leg while they operate on your leg. So I'm like that guy. No, the other guy in Wham. You don't want me, you don't need me, but you pay for me as part of the package. And I've been a surgical assistant for over 20 years. And just last week, the government shut down all elective surgery. And so last week, I was out of a job. Last week, the private hospital that I work at has had to shut down. Right now, they're negotiating some sort of deal with the public system. Maybe if the virus keeps escalating, we will need the private hospital for beds and ventilators, but they're not going to need orthopedic surgical assistants in the emergency. So I'm out of a job. So last week I said bye to all the other doctors and nurses and the wardsmen. And I said, see you next time. And there was this really long, awkward pause because we all said, what does next time mean? And I said, it could be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or never. And then really don't know the future. And even if we come back, we don't know what we're returning to. The same. Hang on. All right, so my internet kicked out. So let me rewind. Yeah, so I'll just take it back one sentence. I said bye to everyone last week. I said, see you next time. There was a long, awkward pause. We all looked at each other and I said, yeah, what's next time? It could be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or never. And that's the awkwardness. Right now, we don't know what the future will be. We don't know how long we'll be out of work. And when we do come back from work, we don't know what we're returning to. Life may never be the same. I said to one wardsman, so what are you going to do? He looked at me and said, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to line up at Centrelink and see how I can get some sort of government assistant package. And I guess that's the hardest thing about being out of work. And actually, this is my 3rd time out of work. This is my 3rd time in transition. When I was a junior doctor, that ended badly. So after 4 years as a doctor, I had to take time off. So I was in transition for maybe just over a few months. Then I taught at a Bible college, and after 9 years, that ended badly. And so I was in transition for 1 year. And now for the 3rd time in my life, I'm in transition again. So what I might just share today over the next 10 or 15 minutes are the 3 things that I'm using to hang on to right now to put a bit of stability in my life. And right now, even my job with City Bible Forum is a bit up in the air because I'm an events-based speaker and all my events have been wiped out for the next 6 to 9 months. So I don't know what the next 6 to 9 months looks like, and I don't know what I'm returning to. So here are the 3 things that I'm going to use to hang on to get me through my transition period. So the first thing is this. I have to embrace the boredom. I have to embrace the boredom. The hardest thing about being in transition, I say to people, is that feeling when you wake up in the morning and you say, I don't know what I'm waking up for. There's actually nothing in my day that I'm waking up for. And I need to learn to embrace that. They say children don't know how to be bored these days. That's part of the problem. And as a grown up, I need to learn how to be bored again. But part of the problem of being in transition is, I have a saying, a holiday is only a holiday if it's a holiday from work. But if there's no work, it's actually not a holiday. And when we're first out of work, we think this is going to be amazing. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to cook. I'm going to clean the shed. I'm going to garden. But when you first try it, it really messes with your mind because it just doesn't feel restful. It doesn't feel purposeful. Again, a holiday is only a holiday if it's holiday from work. But if there's no work, it doesn't feel like a holiday. So there's this interesting dynamic in life where there's purposeful work, work that feels like it's for a purpose. And they say when we have that, we achieve a flow state where busy, but we don't feel the time because it's purposeful. But the opposite of that is purposeless work, where we're busy, but for no obvious purpose. And that's when we burn out. That leads to burnout. But then there's also purposeful rest. And that's actually very restful and restorative and healing. But then there's purposeless rest, where we're just idle. We have too much time and we don't know what we're meant to be doing with ourselves. So I remember the last time I was in transition, I saw a counselor and she said, yes, you have too much time. And that's what it feels like right now. We have too much time. So it's a purposeless rest. So what I'm learning to do is I had to embrace the boredom and change it from a purposeless rest, a purposeless boredom, to a purposeful boredom. And so I've got to learn to embrace the white space in life. So when we were busy, we used to complain, we were busy, we don't have enough time. So now we got to say, well, this is the healing moment we were asking for when we're not busy. This is the chance to recover. It's a compulsory Sabbath, borrowing a term from the Bible. It's almost like we have to let the fields go fallow right now. This is our fallow year. So it's purposeful. It doesn't feel purposeful right now, but it is purposeful. And the principle of Sabbath in the Bible is, yes, we get to rest, but at the same time, we have to trust that God will provide and trust that God has a purpose. So somehow this is purposeful rest. It's not purposeless. And maybe this is a chance for us to check out things like meditation. For me, it's prayer and reading the Bible. Normally, when I try to read the Bible, I find my brain is racing. There's too much buzz in my brain. I can't pray. I can't read the Bible. But now this is the white space God is giving me to be able to pray, meditate, restore, and read the Bible. So I need to embrace the boredom. One of the things I've deliberately tried to do is I've made it a rule for myself, and I'm not saying you should do the same. This is my personal rule. I will never pull out my phone when I'm in front of my wife, and I'll never pull out my phone when I'm in front of my children, because that says someone else is more important, and I'm bored while I'm with you. So I need to embrace boredom with my children, boredom with my wife, and boredom when I'm by myself. So the first thing is embrace the boredom, realize it's purposeful. In the Bible, there's this really interesting passage in Ecclesiastes where it says, there's a time to build, but there's a time to tear down. There's a time to plant. There's a time to harvest. And maybe there's a time to work, but this is the time to rest. So there's a purpose to the boredom, a purpose to the rest. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I'm learning to embrace is just learn to control only what I can control. and let go of everything else. Learn to control what I can control and let go of everything else. I call this zone defense. So, you know, in sport, could be any sport, could be basketball, netball, hockey, rugby, soccer. We play this thing called zone defense, where every time an opponent comes into our zone, that's our assignment. But when the opponent leaves our zone into someone else's zone, that's not our assignment. And if they score, that's not on me, not my assignment, not my zone, not my responsibility. And I think in transition, it's forcing me to again see, okay, what can I control? Take control of what I should control. So, you know, stay healthy, stay upskilled, control what I can control, but everything that's not in my control, let go of it. Not my responsibility, not on me. I also call it the church morning tea principle. I go to a church where there are 200 people, and at the end of this church service, they all flood the lawn, and it's just mayhem. And I have 3 young boys, and that's when I play zone defense. When they're with me, my responsibility. When they go in some other zone, not on me. Like, they're not my responsibility. That's zone defense. And I think in transition, what can I control? Let go of everything else. And what the COVID virus has shown us is, you know what? There's so little we do control. We had an illusion of control, which has been unmasked. And really, we can't control everything. And the Bible says that's okay. Let it go. And Jesus has these really comforting words in his Sermon on the Mountain, where it says, don't worry about what you'll eat. Don't worry about what you wear. You know, look at the birds. They've got enough. Look at the flowers in the field. They've got enough. Don't worry about that. That's on God. That's his zone. That's his responsibility. Let go of it. You can't control that much. Jesus even says, don't worry about tomorrow. That's tomorrow's zone. Worry about today. God has tomorrow. That's his zone. And then there's this other passage in the Bible in a book called James where it says, you people who say, hey, tomorrow we'll go in the city, we'll do some business, we'll make a bucket load of money. And the Bible says, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You're just a wisp, a puff of smoke, a flower in the field. That's not in your zone. You can't control that. And Jesus says, that's okay. So learning to be comfortable with just how little I can control. And I think one of the reasons why we get so burnt out in the West is we're told we can control everything. Do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever makes you successful. And we find out, actually, I can't control my happiness. I can't control my success. That's not on me, and that's okay. The third peg I'm hanging on to right now is it makes me take stock of my life. It makes me ask, what are the sure things I do have? What do I have for sure? What are the things of ultimate value in my life? So once work is taken away from us, makes us ask again, well, what do I have of value? When we travel, often many of us carry a fake wallet. And we carry a fake wallet so that if we're robbed, we only lose the fake wallet. It's of no value. I can lose that. The other wallet, which has the passport, credit cards, and cash, that is the one of value. I don't want to lose that. And when we're in transition, when we lose the job, we've got to learn to say, you know what? That's of no value. That is not what it has value, but it's not the ultimate value in my life. I still have what is of ultimate value, and that's okay. So what is of ultimate value? There's a famous TED talk by Robert Waldinger. It's the most downloaded TED talk of all time. It's had millions and millions of views, and it's titled, What Makes a Good Life? And Robert Waldinger from Harvard, they've done an amazing study where they trace the lives of more than 70 men over a period of more than 70 years. And they try to look at what correlates to a good life. And they found that in the end, it makes no difference whether you made $1 million or didn't, whether you're a CEO of a company or you're not, whether you've paid off your house or whether you don't own a house. It makes no difference. What leads to a more healthy and more happy life is quality of relationships. And so this is what is of ultimate value in our life. And this is what we need to double down on and invest in. And so while we're in transition, we can say, you know what, I lost the job. It had some value, but that's okay. It's of limited value. What I do have of value are relationships. So in this time of rest, this is when I need to double down and invest hard on relationships. And what's interesting right now with the forced isolation, that's what we're all learning. It's all about relationships. You know, there was so much fluff and buzz built into our lives. We got so distracted from what did matter. Now they've been removed. We suddenly realize it's all about relationships. I know, and that's what's so hard if we're maybe living by ourselves. But no, but for all of us, it's a time to connect and realize that of ultimate value is to be loved and loved, to be loved and to love. And that's what we can concentrate on now and be purposeful about. I was speaking once at a dinner. They sat me next to a man who I never met before. I asked him about his life and he said he recently became a believer. He recently became a Christian. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Why did you decide to become a Christian? And this was around the time of the GFC, the global financial crisis. He said his business partner lost everything, lost the business, lost the house, lost the car, but he was okay. And so he asked his friend, how are you okay? And he said, well, I still have my family. I still have God. I still have relationships. And that's when this guy realized, oh my goodness, if I lost the car, the job, the house, I would not be okay because I've invested all my value into them and I would lose everything. And suddenly he realized, I too need to invest in relationships and I too need a God who I can love and who loves me because that is of ultimate value and no one can ever take that away from me. So they're the 3 pegs I hang on to. Embrace the boredom, see it as purposeful. Just realize how little I can control and be okay with that, but be responsible for what I can control. And finally, ask myself again, what is of ultimate value in my life and maybe double down on that. And maybe what I can do, and this is a little tip someone gave me, and so I'm going to share with you. The hardest thing about transition time is we don't know how long it is. This is where I'm always amazed at prisoners of war and how they get through being a prisoner of war, because some people were prisoners of war for 5 or 10 years. And if you said to them, you're going to be prisoner of war for 5 or 10 years, they would say, okay, good. Now I know how long this is going to go for. But when you're a prisoner of war, you don't know whether it's 1 day, 10 days, or 10 years. And that's a problem with being in transition. All those 3 pegs you told me about are great, but I don't know if I'm in this for 1 day, 10 days, or 10 years. And so I like to write a little contract with myself, or maybe you can make it with your partner or loved one, but I have a little contract and I just basically have 3 lines. Line number 1 is, at the end of this transition, okay, how do I write it? Okay, I will use this transition time to blank. So I will use this transition time to blank. So you put in there, it could be family, it could be rest, it could be to do an online course, it could be to see a counselor, something. I will use this transition time to blank. And then the next one is method. My method will be blank, as in I will achieve this by doing this, blank. And the third one is, I know I will be successful if blank. So what is your KPI, your metric, your measuring yardstick? So at the end of this, I will know I was successful by blank. So the whole problem when we have infinite time is we want to do infinite things. That just makes us feel guilty for not doing something else. So we're spending time with family. We think, well, I should be resting. But if we're resting, we feel like we should be reading. But if we're reading, we feel like we should be taking up a course. We're taking a course, well, we think I could have used this time for therapy. We're taking time for therapy. We feel like I could have been traveling. And so you always feel like you should have been doing something else rather than what you're doing. So make a little contract. I will use this time to blank. And last time I did that was, you know what, I'm going to see a counselor, get myself sorted out. I will achieve this by blank, seeing a counselor. And I know I would have had a great transition time if blank, well, how about I had 10 sessions with a counselor? And so at the end of my 12 months off, I thought, was that a good transition time? I would say, yes, it was successful because I wanted to see a counselor. I saw a counselor and I had 10 sessions. So maybe that's what I can share with you guys. All right, that's all I had to say for this morning.
Thanks, Sam. I'm just going to stop the recording now.